With the recent patch on October 25th, Overwatch 2 released 2 new heroes, and in this video, we're going to be covering Bastion, the second newest hero along with Torbjorn, and you guys are probably wondering just how you can hop into rank today and dominate with him. Since Bastion's recent resurrection allows him to be a playable hero now, we're going to be breaking down his kit and how to play him best in this video. Before we get into the video, if you want to learn how to easily rank up and take control of your games right now, you should go over to GameLeap.com and sign up. We have tons of guides for all different heroes and new ones coming out every single day. You can check the description for a link to get started right now. Ironclad is Bastion's passive. It reduces his damage taken whenever he is transformed. This means that whenever he uses his ultimate ability, Artillery Configuration, and whenever he uses his other ability, Assault Configuration, to get his minigun, his passive will give him a total of 20% damage reduction. But if you don't know already, Bastion has 300 total HP, with 100 of that being armor. And if you didn't know before, any hero with armor takes 30% less damage while their armor is still up. So that means whenever Bastion is transformed and at full HP, he will take 50% less damage until his armor is completely broken through. This is extremely strong and very important to note because it can easily change the way that you engage enemies, and it makes you very, very strong with a pocket healer like Mercy or Zenyatta that can easily keep your health fully topped off while you're poking and fighting at enemies. This can also be super important for dodging certain ultimate abilities and surviving through big bursts of damage. You can use your transform ability or your ultimate to actually dodge big sources of damage like Diva Bomb and Junkrat Tire, but it's not going to completely save you, as Diva Bomb can deal 600 damage, so if it's right on top of you and you transform, you're probably going to die anyways. But it's worth a try to actually just transform when you're running away if a Diva Bomb or Junkrat Tire is coming towards you, and the chances are you might actually survive. Bastion's primary fire is a very slow firing weapon that deals quite a bit of damage, but the best part of it is that it has no recoil or firing spread at all. This means that no matter how far away or how many times you shoot, his weapon will always fire perfectly accurate. Now, this isn't the best because it does have damage fall off, but this only starts at about 30 meters, which is decently far away, so most of the time you're not really going to have to worry about it unless you're facing heroes like Widowmaker. It deals 25 damage per shot, and headshots are going to be 50. So if an enemy Widowmaker is pretty far away, you might actually be able to deal enough damage with your headshots on her to stop her from trying to peek you. His first ability is going to be his grenade. You can actually use his secondary fire or the ability button to use this ability. Some important things to know about his grenade is that it has a relatively short cooldown of only 8 seconds. This means that you shouldn't ever really be holding on to it for long periods. It can be a great way to deal damage to faraway healers or enemies behind cover. The next thing to note is that it bounces off walls pretty hard, and you can easily hit enemies or supports hiding behind walls or cover to stop them from healing for a few crucial seconds, or to try and bounce them out of cover because the explosion actually pushes enemies away from it. It also will not bounce off the ground. Anytime that it hits the ground, whether it's your first shot or off of a wall, it's going to stick to the ground and explode. Another really important note for his grenade is that it deals most of the damage from the explosion itself. Unlike Cassidy's grenade, his explosion only does 15 damage when it impacts somebody, sticking to them, and then it will deal 100 damage with the explosion, down to 30 damage depending on how far away the enemies are from it. This means that sometimes it's best to actually hit a grenade on either a tank hero or a Lucio that's going to be running towards his team, or anybody that's close to another person, so that you can get maximum effect of that explosion that it deals. And lastly, his grenade can actually be used while he's in his assault configuration, so whenever you are in his minigun form, you can put out even more damage with his grenade. Speaking of his assault configuration, this is going to be Bastion's strongest tool in his whole kit. Arguably, this is what makes Bastion such a strong hero, and it's probably going to be stronger than his ultimate when it comes to actually being useful. This ability allows you to deal 360 damage per second to anybody that's close enough to take every single shot from you. This means that any hero in the game will melt in front of you without proper cover or defensive cooldowns. Even heroes that are nanoed, taking 50% damage reduction, are still going to be easily melted through in under 2 seconds unless it's a tank. The worst part about this ability is the 35% movement speed reduction that you get whenever you use it. This means that you will need to be positioned very well whenever you're using this, or the enemies will simply walk behind cover and you will just be sitting there doing nothing. Now, this ability isn't the best against heroes like Diva or Orisa, who can just eat all your shots, but pretty much any other tank in the game is going to regret their life decisions whenever they meet meet you in this ability. Another super easy way to get value out of this ability is to play with heroes like Symmetra or Lucio, who can speed you up or teleport you behind the enemy's cover so that you can easily wreak havoc on them from behind. The last and probably best way to get value out of this ability though is using it from the high ground. Especially whenever you're near an objective, it allows you to easily see all of the enemies from above while easily being able to retreat to cover if you start getting focused. Now his ultimate is kind of bad and kind of good. It's mostly bad because it's very easy to dodge with just about any movement ability or any kind of speed boost ability. This means that anytime you use his ultimate ability, it should probably never be before the fight actually starts. This is because a lot of the times enemies are going to have their movement abilities available, and any hero you try and target, whether it's a Widowmaker or an Ana, is just going to run away, and most of the time they're going to dodge it unless they're positioned very poorly. Some of the easiest times to use his ultimate are when enemies are in small corridors or on the objective and you want to force them off. If they're in a small room or corridor, it's very easy to hit both of the exits with one artillery shell and then send a final one to the center to finish them off if those first two didn't already. His ultimate actually deals from 30 to 600 total damage. This means that pretty much any hero in the game is going to get one shot if it's hit by the center of a shell. This is why most of the time you really want to use your first two shells to corral an enemy into a room or into a corner and then hit that final shell on them in somewhat of a triangle pattern where you are forcing them backwards with the first two shells and then finishing them off with the third shell instead of trying to hit 3 perfect shells. Another great tip for your ultimate is waiting for an enemy to use a movement ability or cooldown. Like if you see an enemy Widowmaker grapple onto a high ground mid-fight, you can go behind a corner, ultimate, and then easily get the kill on that Widowmaker because she isn't going to have a movement ability and she's going to be a much easier target to finish off with your ult. Now lastly, positioning is pretty simple as Bastion. You absolutely need support as much as possible, so unless your supports are following you around everywhere, then you shouldn't be flanking pretty much ever. If you go off on a flank by yourself, you're going to lose like 90% of the 1v1s that come your way. Just because of how large Bastion is and how bad his primary fire is up close, even if you transform into your minigun form, then you're still going to probably lose a 1v1 because the enemy can just walk away from you due to your minus 35% movement speed. Most of the time as Bastion, you want to be playing similar to Cassidy, where you always want to be looking for opportunities with your grenade while playing near your tank and winning that tank duel. You can easily hit squishy enemies from far away with your grenade and then finish them off with your primary fire before you transform into your minigun form and fight the enemy tank. Most of the time though, you really want to be timing your transformation so that the enemy tank is going to either have to die or so that they're going to have to use a lot of cooldowns to save that tank. This means that either forcing a tank to come towards you or waiting for the Reinhardt to charge in, things like that where they're not in a good position and you can easily take advantage of them trying to retreat back to their team. One last tip is if you ever find yourself in a 1v1 with Genji and you have transformed, you need to be very careful about how long you're shooting at him. You should probably start shooting at Genjis in small bursts in your minigun form. This is because you can easily melt yourself in like half a second if a Genji looks at you and deflects. Now in the comments, I want you guys to tell me how you've been enjoying these two new heroes, Bastion and Torbjorn, and if you're excited that they're back in this new game. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. If you want to learn how to easily rank up and take control of your games right now, you should go over to GameLeap.com and sign up. We have tons of guides for all different heroes and new ones coming out every single day. You can check the description for a link to get started right now.